Greetings everyone, and welcome to the 4th Sonic Super Special entitled Return of the King. No, it's not Sonic's take on the 3rd part of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's actually the payoff of some ongoing plot threads. Most importantly, the Sword of Acorns business. Let's get everyone up to speed before getting started on the review. If you recall, Mammoth Mogul took the real Sword of Acorns while giving our heroes a fake. He used it to bring down the Chaos Demigod Enerject back to the floating island in order to steal his powers. He then takes on Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles because they are the biggest threat to him. Thanks to a combination of super forms, help from the Brotherhood of Guardians, and the Ancient Walkers, Mogul was not only defeated, he became trapped in the newly created Master Emerald. And at long last, the Freedom Fighters got the real Sword of Acorns. Time to finally take care of the King's crystal problems. We start with the Freedom Fighters returning to the city from the floating island. King Max, despite his condition, heads out to greet them, along with a lot of soldiers. He says he's fine and that the whole disabled the Robians thing back in issue 55 was nonsense, while everyone else suddenly suggests getting rid of the Mobians, stating that while they may have free will again, there may be hidden programming that'll switch them back into danger mode. Max tries to snuff out the idea, but the Freedom Fighters constantly pushing the subject angers the king enough so that his body completely switches to crystal. This changes the king's attitude. Once again, he's on board with dismantling the Robians and organizes the royal troops. That was a fast turnaround. It's almost as if magic was involved. Hours later, another airship flies over the city, one that contains the Freedom Fighters. Okay, for the sake of clarity, I'll go ahead and reveal this now. These Freedom Fighters are the real deal. As we'll see later, it's because they'll have the Sword of Acorns, while the team we saw at the beginning did not have it, nor was it brought up in any way, shape, or form. Anyway, thanks to the chaos below, their airship was shot down. Don't worry, everyone's fine. They come across some of the royal guards, who tell them to stay indoors. That's odd considering that they failed to recognize Princess Sally Acorn of all people. Sonic catches one in a whirlwind so Sally can properly interrogate him. She learns that her father was responsible for the chaos after the other Freedom Fighters told him the Robians were dangerous. Before they can begin sorting out this mess, some nearby explosions force the group into an abandoned building. Only said building happened to house some Robians, including Uncle Chuck. He's willing to hear out Sonic and company. However, some of the other Robians won't have it and are prepared to fire. Sonic takes away that option. Uncle Chuck and Sonic have a brief heart-to-heart before agreeing to figure out who's responsible for this mess. Just when things are turning around, Uncle Chuck gets shot by the royal guard Sally interrogated earlier. An angry Sonic pulls out the Sword of Acorns, ready to take his revenge, despite pleas from everyone, including Sonic's parents, telling him not to. Suddenly, there's a flash from the sword, which resulted in not only Uncle Chuck getting restored, but has cleared the head of the guard. The last thing he remembered was hearing about the Freedom Fighters' return, going out into the landing area, and then nothing. He doesn't remember going after Uncle Chuck or the other Robians. Yep, someone is manipulating events. Someone with massive power to turn the people against one another. And since Enerject and Mogul are out of the picture, that leaves one other candidate, Ixis Naugus. Sonic heads over to call out the wizard, saying they've caught on to his plan. Naugus shows himself. Sort of. Remember back when the fake Freedom Fighters, whom apparently Naugus disguised as, goaded Max into attacking the Robians and he got angry? That's what allowed Naugus to possess the king. So in a sense, he will get to rule Mobitropolis after all. Not if Sonic can help it. He whips out the sword and like before, it flashes. The nearby guards come to their senses, and Naugus hightails it up the stairs. Sonic, joined by the other Freedom Fighters, follow him. On the roof, Naugus threatens to throw Max's body off, and all he has to do is leave it before dooming himself. Sonic points out that the sword's actually weakening Naugus, so that may not work. With that, it turns into a taking you with me situation, as Naugus forces the king's body over the edge. Sonic follows, and after grabbing him, the sword flashes once again. On the ground, Sonic wakes up to find the king staring over him. And yes, this is indeed the king. The sword not only cushioned their fall, it drove Naugus out of the body. Sadly, it appears that the king will be stuck in crystal form forever. The sword itself is nearby, stuck inside a stone, and people are trying and failing to pull it out. We're really doing this, huh? Yeah, you know how this'll go. Yeah, the king takes his shot and succeeds. Another flash occurs, and he's flesh and blood once more. On top of his head is the real crown of acorns, pulled from, according to the narration, the Hall of Limbo, a dimension inside of his mind. In other words, he had the will inside of him all along. Admittedly, if you're confused about this like I am, let's just go with magic sword, summon magic crown, the king's back to normal, the end. The second story in this special is something I wanted to touch upon quickly. It explains what happened to Bunnie and Antoine after they were captured during the events of Endgame and were sent to Down Under as prisoners, alongside the Down Under freedom fighters. The Down Under sub-boss, Crocbot, says if Bunnie tries to use her robotic arm, Antoine's explosive collar goes off. After leaving, Bunnie points out that they've neglected her unrobotic arm, and with the help of Barbie Koala's claws, they managed to get Antoine's collar off. They tricked the combat guard by setting off the explosive, probably when Bunnie used her arm to free the others. The machine went inside and they quickly smashed it. The group frees the remaining Down Under freedom fighters and head towards the loading area, where it's revealed that Crocbot plans to backstab Robotic by having a Combot deliver a mini thermal nuclear device along with the ore that is to be used as fuel for the ultimate annihilator. The Down Under freedom fighters launch their attack, while Bunnie and Antoine sneak aboard the Airbus bound for Robotropolis. As they hide in the communications room, they learn about the ultimate annihilator and about the Combot with the bomb. They separate it from the others and smash it to bits, claiming the bomb as their own. They hop off the Airbus when they reach Robotropolis, and things proceeded as shown in issue 50. All of this was framed over a big celebration that clearly got some inspiration from Return of the Jedi, as the using helmets as drums bit illustrates. The ending does reveal, thanks to a postcard, that the Down Under freedom fighters not only survived, they took down Crocbot and liberated the continent. Another happy ending. Anyway, the purpose of this story is to actually see how Bunnie and Antoine got from being chained up in Down Under to Robotropolis. That is, if one read the 4-part Endgame story with just the basic version of issue 50. Now, if you were to read issues 47 through 49, then Sonic Super Special 6, aka the extended version of issue 50, some of this story would be incorporated into it. When I get around to reviewing Endgame, or if you're seeing this after I've uploaded it, there's a good chance I'll take a look at the Super Special 6 version, and include even more elements of this story for a more complete picture. That's what I take away from this tale. It's to fill in some gaps, and it's to let the audience know the Down Under freedom fighters are alright. Sometimes it's better to show than tell. The main story delivers on its title. King Max has officially returned. Looking back, he has gone on a bit of a journey, from getting deposed by Robotic and sent into the Zone of Silence, to making a pact with a treacherous wizard in order to survive the harsh zone. The cost was becoming his servant and giving all property, including Robotropolis, to him. Max spent the next 10 years as the wizard's knight until he was rescued from the zone. Being exposed to normal reality again caused Max's body to crystallize, and his mind's gone, until Sonic went inside to straighten that out. He was briefly replaced by a robotic duplicate, and while he was on the mend, learned of Naugus' return, and then there's that little outburst of him wanting to disable the Mobians in issue 55. Something that he has come to regret at the start of this special, though I have a feeling who might be responsible for all this. Well, all that doubt and anger, plus more trickery on Naugus' part, allowed Max to get possessed. It's only thanks to Sonic and the Sword of Acorns that Max not only regained his sense of self, he regained his strength, confidence, and more importantly, the title of King, which manifests in the form of the true crown of acorns. I may have joked earlier in the summary about the crown magically appearing on Max's head after getting the sword, but in reality, this concludes a plot thread established in issue 42. The Crown of Acorns having the ability to reverse his condition, and the Sword of Acorns being the key item to summon it. There is more to the sword and crown combination, but I'll save it for another time. Naugus returns and reveals more of his bag of tricks. I assume he has to because without his wand, he can no longer utilize crystal magic, something his animated counterpart can do without a wand, so 1 point towards the cartoon. This brings me to his first trick, shape-shifting, which the cartoon version also had. It's how he tricked Sonic into getting him out of the void in the first place. In this case, he assumed the form of the Freedom Fighters in order to emotionally manipulate Max enough so he can display another new ability, Possession. Before we get to that, I want to go into detail about shape-shifting into an entire team. I admit it's a bit of a stretch, dividing yourself into multiple people, then I'm assuming hijacking an airship so you can ultimately steal Max's body. Yeah, that's a bit convoluted. Wouldn't it be easier for Naugus to remain hidden and create illusions that would have gotten the same results? Whatever, as long as he got what he wanted. I have to say, Naugus is so obsessed with ruling Mobotropolis, he'd hijack the king to do it. Well, it's a good workaround when people, especially the heroes, recognize his natural form. And his first act as king is to declare war on the Robians. This has been building up for some time, and we got a taste of it again in the backup story of issue 55. There is a legitimate concern regarding the Robians. Until recently, most of the ones in the city were under Robotnik's control. The Ultimate Annihilator malfunction happened, and bam, they got their free will back. There is the possibility that they might regain their Robotnik programming and become dangerous again. Of course, it would probably take someone with the same level of intelligence as Robotnik to try this, but what are the chances of that happening? Back to the conflict, it escalated due to Naugus demonstrating his emotional manipulation skills, along with some brainwashing on the general public. Perhaps he's been doing this as far back as issue 55. As I said earlier, the mood shifts between the king in that story and this one prior to Possession could have been caused by Naugus. Or it's possible that the king wasn't all there mentally and that the people's anger was real. Naugus just took advantage of the situation. What I do know is Naugus's emotional manipulation ability is dangerous, and I will reveal that this is not the first time, nor will it be the last time he will use it. Heck, things got so bad with this whole manipulation and Civil War thing that it drove Sonic, who was not possessed by the way, to almost kill an innocent guard. It's only thanks to the Sword of Acorns that things turned out alright. I will give this a pass because, first, it was hard to find the sword in the first place. Second, it's powerful enough to drain a being powered by almost a dozen Chaos Emeralds, so we know its potential. And finally, given the material it's made of, which will be revealed at a later point, it'll all make sense. The story gets a 7. It's a nice little mystery and the resolution works. There are some character beats that work and some go a little bit over the top, but I'm fine with it overall. Plus, the heroes could use some victories during this time. But things are not completely resolved despite the ending. Sure, the Civil War is stopped, but there will still be fear of the Robians. And even though Naugus may have left the body, he's still at large. This is something Sonic and his buddy Tails will have to resolve. However, that's something for another time. Look at this! Even the ship the fake Freedom Fighters came out of screams evil. Naugus isn't even trying anymore.